Vince Ortega is the director of the Jackson County Community Based Antidrug Tax program, also known as Combat. Previously, Vince served the Kansas City Police Department for 30 years before retiring as their deputy chief of police. This man has been a lifelong public servant for nearly 50 years in Kansas City, pioneering a way for Latinos to move up in law enforcement. We sit with Vince to discuss his upbringing, his career, tell crazy undercover cop stories, the program Combat, and the resources offered by this great program in our city. This is Enterrupt KC. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome back to Enterrupt KC, the podcast dedicated to people, places, and things right here in Kansas City. I'm your man, D-Rob. This is JL. We got Nick behind the scenes, man, making sure everything's running smooth.
Shout out, Nick.
Man. Shout out, Nick, man.
I think people don't understand how much Nick really helps us, do they?
I don't think they do,
They
man.
see us up here talking all the time, and Nick's back there just kind of like...
He's back there going like this. No, wait, stop, you know.
Don't say that. No.
Yeah.
No. Shout out, Nick, man. Really appreciate all that help.
Doubt, man.
So, man, what's going on, man? Big week, huh?
Oh, it's a great week, man. I'm great. Really excited about tonight.
Yes, sir.
This guest we have today, man. It's I like to call him like a icon in the community.
Yes, sir.
You know, without a doubt. You know, things that this man has accomplished and what he's done.
That's right.
In his life, and then what he's doing now, man.
And you know, man, D-Rod, I think this just shows the part for Enterrupt KC for us, man. This is a commitment to the community.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about that all the time, man.
All the time.
This is the commitment to the community. You know, our city, born and raised here, both of us. So, without further ado,
yes, sir.
I think it's time to interrupt our guest today.
Let's do it, man.
And by interrupt, we mean introduce our guest.
Yes.
None other than the man himself, icon himself,
Iconic.
Mr. Vincent Ortega.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
How's it going?
It. It's going good. It's going good. It's going really good.
Good, man. Good. What's keeping you busy nowadays, Vince?
Oh, my God.
We'll start off with the easy question.
Okay.
What's keeping you busy nowadays?
Well, actually, when I retired from the police department, I came to Jackson County in 2009. And at that time, it was Mike Sanders. He was the executive there, and I interviewed for the combat position. It was open. And he said, "Are you just going to hang around for a couple of years, or give me some time?" And I said, "No, I'll be around for 5 years." And today,
how long has
it's
it been?
15 years later.
Nice, man. Nice.
But I'm actually going to retire. I already announced my retirement at the end of this year.
Oh, man.
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations,
Well,
man.
thank you.
Man.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's well earned and deserved.
Man, two retirements.
Two retirements.
I will never know what that feels like. Man, that's amazing, man. It's amazing. So I know there's a lot to talk about with you, Vince. Your work with the police department, your work here at the county. For those that don't know, we're here again at Jackson County offices, sitting with Mr. Ortega this evening.
Yeah, and the combat.
Yeah, in the combat program. So we're going to get to all those things, Vince. One of the things that I think our audience would be interested in who may not know you is, man, what's your upbringing? Where are you from in Kansas City? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm the oldest of 6 kids and grew up in the West Side. So my third generation. So my grandparents on both sides of the family came from Mexico, and my parents, though, were actually born here.
Okay.
Born and raised here on the West Side. We lived for a number of years at 18th and Summit. I can't think of the exact address, but right next to the Mignoses. So I grew up with the Mignoses there.
They're like family.
Like family, yeah. Yeah, so my father was, here's the, out of all of us in the family, except for me, were born in Kansas City. Because I was born in Mobile, Alabama, because my father was stationed in the Air Force Base there. So he came home on his third year for his leave time for a month. Married my mom, and then they went back to serve his last year in Mobile, Alabama, on the Air Force Base there.
Wow.
So I was born there. So roll tide.
Roll Tide. I was gonna say you kind of get the best of all those worlds.
Man, you'd have a good conversation with my sister and my nephew. Man, they live down there, and they're always texting me roll tide.
Yeah.
So base football season, you're Roll Tide. Basketball season, you're like MIZ, or what are you screaming?
Yeah, basketball. I'm really not into basketball, but since Alabama's basketball team has picked up the last couple of years, I've been watching them.
Nice, man. Nice.
But yeah, I always watch. When Missouri or KU are in the finals.
So you're one of 6 children, you said, right?
One of 6 children.
Your father was in the military.
Right.
Did he retire from the military? Or?
Yeah, he retired. He did 4 years, retired from the military, came home. And actually, one of the skills he picked up there, he came here, the first thing he did was he was an RCA man.
Oh, okay.
RCA.
When they had the old tubes when you would fix the TV. So he was a TV repairman.
I was going to say, that people probably don't even know what that means.
What they don't, man. I know they don't. Some of them do. There's going to be some of them in our audience
there
that's gonna know what
are
they're talking
definitely,
about,
yes.
for real.
Yeah, because those, I was also in a band, and so I remember all the amplifiers had tubes in them.
You was in a music band?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Did you sing? What'd you do?
I played drums.
Drums. Right.
Yeah, matter of fact, we'll talk about it later because I have to shout out to your sister Sylvia.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, we went to high school together, and the band we played at Lillis, in mixers, proms, and we
what
played
was the
at
name
West.
of that band?
Jay and the Brothers of Freedom.
Jay and the Brothers of Freedom. Where's Jay at?
Yeah, I was going to say, who's Jay?
Jay Ramirez. He was one of the singers at the time.
Is he still around?
He's still around. Yeah.
Man, we're gonna have to go get the band together.
Let's
get the band like the Blues Brothers.
What kind of music did you all play?
Oh, so again in the 70s. So we played Santana, Chicago, James Brown's.
How about some of this War, man?
Oh, definitely War. Definitely War.
You're slipping in the darkness?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Cisco Kid, man.
Man.
Yeah. So we had a song list about 45 songs, and we played a little
songs.
Bunch of cover songs.
Did you guys come up with any original songs?
No.
It don't matter, man.
I'll cover.
Jamming is jamming, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No. I wish I could have played in a band. I wasn't that good. I played drums.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't that good though.
Yeah.
I always wanted to pick up the harmonica, man, and I actually owned one, years ago.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, we was out this past weekend celebrating this friend of mine.
You bought a harmonica, didn't you?
No, but I'm looking at it, man. And because there was this band he had playing, and there was this guy that was singing and playing harmonica. And I was like, baby, you remember when I wanted that harmonica? And she's like, you had one. I was like, yeah. I'm like, I'm going to get another one. So, yeah, man.
We might hear D-Rod on the podcast with the harmonica. There we go.
Well, we're talking about, I know we're getting off track, but
go ahead,
talking about a harmonica. So my wife is actually from Ireland. I met her, we'll be married 43 years. I met her 45 years ago.
Yeah.
And so she came over here when she was 18.
Yeah.
Long story short, after we got married, the following year, we got married in 82. The following year, I went to Ireland to meet all her family.
Right.
And so I had uncles and, cousins giving me Guinness.
Irish.
Yeah. So we were drinking, and I was drinking out a little bit of everything. And there was a guy playing a harmonica and a guitar.
Yeah.
And so somebody said, well, he plays the drums. And then the guy said, well, I bet you can play a harmonica. They said I could play. I don't remember.
You're drinking all that Irish whiskey and beer, man.
They said, you sounded good. You sounded good. And I said,
you know why? Because they probably don't remember either. They're
exactly.
He sounded good, man. We don't remember. We all don't remember. He just sounded good.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's a great story. That's a great story. I was wondering, Vince, your mom. What did your mom do?
Okay, so my mom. Here the backstory on that. So when they got married, she was just moms. She stayed home, took care of us.
That's what it was back then.
Yeah, my dad eventually he was the RCA man for probably a couple years, and then he got on the fire department.
Okay.
Once he got on the fire department, I had a brother Steve, then Pat, then my sister Mary. Or Liz, Mary, and then my youngest brother, Joe.
Okay.
So my father was a firefighter. My 2 brothers were firefighters.
Wow.
And one just retired as a captain, and the other one's still on there as a captain, and he's also a paramedic.
Oh, wow.
So that's his part-time job.
Yeah, right now he is.
Right now, yeah.
Oh, nice.
But I'm the loner. My brother Steve, he just followed me, became police officers.
Yeah.
And so I was.
So everybody was in the service in one way or the other.
Yeah,
right?
and then you talked about my mom. So after she got the last one, Joe, into grade school, she went back to college and got her nursing degree.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
And then, so she was like 45 years old when she got her nursing degree, and did, I think, about 12 years at KU.
Okay.
In different wards there. She originally wanted to start in the burn unit because of my father, because he had been burned and hurt on the job a couple of times. So, but yeah.
So with that, is that what inspired you to look into the law enforcement?
No. Funny story about that. So
you got arrested.
I,
oh no! Okay.
The band, man.
The band was too loud. The band was too loud. It was like, "Hey, man, you playing the harmonica, man? We got to arrest you."
yeah, and it was terrible. No,
it was good.
No, so senior. When I was a senior, every month they'd have some career person come in, talk about their job, and see if we were interested. Nothing really interested me. Yeah. And then one day, this guy, again in the 70s, this guy came in. He looked like the white Superfly. He had long hair, had the coat with the fur on.
Big old collars.
Big old collars, platforms. Yeah. You just walked in. I mean, immediately everybody thought, a pimp or a drug dealer?
Yeah.
and the girls were just going crazy over him.
They liked him.
They liked him. They liked. So he started telling them about his job, and we're thinking, still sounds kind of like he's a pimp or a drug dealer. But then he says, no, he said, I just got out of working undercover, and I'm recruiting for the police department.
Oh, wow.
And there was 6 of us from that class that became police up. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I have a friend that went to Independence, one to Overland Park, one to the Feds, one to different places.
What was their names? Do you remember your friends' names that all went?
Yeah, there was Bob Kalinda, Don Fowler. Let me think of the other one.
It's cool.
Give me a few minutes here.
I was wondering, do you remember the name of the guy who looked like a pimp or a drug dealer?
Oh yeah, John Dawson.
John Dawson.
Yeah. We're still friends to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to find a picture of John Dawson.
Man, if you got one, man, give it to us.
Yeah. Okay, I will.
Yeah.
That's good.
I do have one because it was actually in our 1974 Lillis album.
Oh wow!
And so I took a picture of it and sent it to him, and currently he's using that as his profile on his Facebook.
John, we're gonna find you. We're gonna find you.
I gotta see that picture,
man. I gotta see that picture too. So you went from the academy. You went right into Kansas City's police department from the academy.
So yes, so I went to as soon as I heard the spiel. I said, I actually had a full ride scholarship to play football at William Jewell.
Okay. So you're an athlete.
Yes.
Yeah, good athlete.
Yeah. And so they didn't have criminal justice there. Mm-hmm. And so it was a squabble between me and my dad. Well, I can't afford Rockhurst because that's where I wanted to go.
Right.
and he said, I can't pay for it. And I said, well, I'll work. I'll make it happen. So. Yeah. So I went to Rockhurst because I went to the police human resources, and I said, I want to be a police officer. And I was 18, and they said, you got to be 21. They said, go get some education, come on back, and we'll take you. Wow. And so I was in my junior year at Rockhurst College, and they gave me the call. They said, we're recruiting, and come on down and go through the whole process. So I mean, backgrounds, investigations.
About what year?
That was 1976.
1976.
Yeah.
When was there many Latinos doing that thing?
I was the 5th or 6th Latino to be hired in the police department.
Wow.
There was probably 5 on the job that had been on there maybe 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, we didn't have any representation.
As far as I can remember, and I've known you for a long time. You probably know me a lot longer since I was younger, right?
Yeah.
And but I think the only other one that was in the community was Ramona Arroyo. Mm-hmm. Right. That was around a lot. You and her, right?
Yeah, I remember Ramona.
Right.
Now, There's a lot, man.
Oh, I know.
There's a lot, man.
It's really encouraging
Yeah.
to see all those Latinos in the department.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you come in as a police officer back then, and maybe it's the same today, Vince. I mean, I don't know, so I'm wondering if the audience knows. Would you come in as a recruit or cadet, or what does that look like? Because I'll be honest with you, man. And this is a 70s, 80s movie, Police Academy, man. Right? Like, Police Academy, man. Like, that just movie sticks out, man.
Serpico with one of them old school movies like that.
It just sticks out, man. But can you, what did that look like?
Yeah. What it looked like is basically like semi-military. So you went in there and we had it's not overalls, but jumpsuit. There you go. We all had jumpsuits. It had the academy emblem. The academy was out.
They shave your head and everything.
No, they didn't go that far. But we did have to,
high and tight.
High and tight. Yeah, high and tight.
Yeah.
And so if you wore a mustache, couldn't be below your lip. Your sideburns had to be, because when we came in, all of us had what they call mud chops. The Elvis look.
Yeah.
And high and tight, and then so we had to run a mile every day, build up to 5 miles. Then it was a lot of academics, learning from city law, state law, federal law. We'd have prosecutors come in. There'd be testimony as if you were testifying in court. And, so a lot of things. Just what I remember because the physical part for me. Like I said, I was an athlete, so that I enjoyed that. But studying, but the studying part, that was a little challenging for me because there was a lot coming at you, and it was for 6 months.
Well, and it was legal stuff on top of that too, which is, man, whew.
Right. And I'm thinking, I just want to work undercover. Now,
I want to look like a pimp or a drug dealer. That's why I'm here.
I want to get their
Y'all
big
tricked
collars.
me. But I tell you, it was one of the best experiences. Met a lot of people. In fact, one of the guys on there, Dave Starbuck, was my wife and I's best man in our wedding. Yeah,
Dave Starbuck.
Dave Starbuck.
Oh,
wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
And he's still around.
He's still around. Yeah.
Awesome. Is he still? Oh no, he's probably
he's retired
as well, right?
Yeah, he's retired. But yeah, so it was gruel every day, and then after if you completed that, because there's a percentage that drop out.
Right.
Oh yeah.
During that,
or get kicked out.
Or get kicked out. Yeah.
If they can't pass exams or whatever else. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what the percentage is now, but I would say probably we lose 10% in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you go out you're on probationary break-in. Yeah. So you have a FTO, a field training officer, riding beside you.
Okay.
So it's a little different today. Back then,
yeah, sure.
Back then.
How long did they ride with you for back then?
Back then, it was only
2 weeks or something.
Yeah, 2-3 weeks. Now I think it's like probably 2 months, 3, or it might even be 6 months.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. 6.
But I mean, back then, all my supervisors were just out of Vietnam. I mean, these guys were hard.
Yeah.
Wow. So like they didn't talk to you. Hey, Boot, get me your coffee.
Boot.
It was just that kind of thing. But again, a lot of respect both from, again, semi-military, especially these guys just getting out of Vietnam. Yeah. And really.
That kind of had to be kind of the challenge as well, because you didn't know what type of personalities you're dealing with, man.
Right. Yeah.
I was wondering, so this is 76, you said-ish?
Mm-hmm. 76 when I got into the academy, September 76.
Okay, so what's the starting pay of a police officer back in the 70s?
We were just talking about that. In fact, that John Dawson, we were all on Facebook just last week.
Yeah.
And I got my pay slip. I made $10,000 a year.
Oh.
Back then.
Yeah, and I thought I was rich.
So that's like
I thought I was rich.
That's like equivalent to 50 grand or something, from then to now maybe.
Yeah.
Because I think they just raised it to $65,000 a year for starting pay.
So $1 an hour is $2,000 a year. That's the math, right? $1 an hour is $2,000 a year, I think, because you're supposed to work like 2,080 hours.
Okay.
So $1 times that is 2,000. So if you, it's basically you were making about a little over $5 an hour, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because our off-duty jobs, like I would work at security at a bank, and they would pay us like $6 or $7 an hour, but you'd work there, maybe 4-hour shifts or something like that.
Did you go right after the academy? You said your interest was in the undercover. Did you go right into that, or did you like work the beat? Or?
No, yeah, you have to work. I think now it's still you have to at least work 3 years in the field.
Oh,
okay.
So it could be as long as you're when I say the field patrolling the streets and yeah. and then I was having fun. I really wasn't looking for any place to go for a while.
Yeah.
I saw all these people taking detective tests and going here and there, and I said, I'm still having fun. But it was about 6 years, and I finally said, you know what, I'm getting burned out here. Time to do what I wanted to do originally, worked undercover, and so I did. It's still a detective's position, so you go through a process through that, and I made it. There's a list that they put 20 to 25 people on the list. So a spot came up in undercover.
Wow. And you made it.
And
how long did you do that?
3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I bet you got some crazy stories.
Oh my God. I tell you, it was nothing like I thought. It was.
Really?
Yeah, it was nothing like I thought.
Like worse? Or?
Worse.
Oh, wow.
Worse because, they took us down to Jeff City.
Yeah.
And you had to change your whole ID. Yeah. So you had a driver's license with a fake name.
Different name.
Yeah, and my what they call crow name. My crow name was Michael Santana. Because my middle name is Michael.
Yeah.
And like I said, one of the songs, we played a lot of Santana.
Yeah.
I still do.
Yeah.
You actually look like a Michael Santana. So it's believable.
Cover, man.
Yeah. So it was. So you're going from a cop, staying above the law, not telling lies. Now you're just telling lies in there just to save your own butt.
Yeah.
Because they're frisking you down. Are you a cop? And back then, now they have all kinds of monitoring systems that they, with the technology now. So when undercovers make buys, they're protected more. There's more surveillance outside.
Yeah.
Back then there was only 6 of us, and we rode in pairs, and so when you go into the house to do a buy or something like that, it was
2 outside, 2 down the street.
No, there was just 1 in the car waiting for you. And if something happened, the signal was you throw a chair out the front window.
Oh, shit.
That was I'm not kidding.
What if it was plastic? I was gonna say, what if it's plastic? It don't break. You're stuck.
Man.
But no, luckily you didn't have to do that. You had some close calls where
We gonna share. Can you share a story of one of those, man?
Yeah.
Which one's the most memorable to you? How about that?
Let's see. Well, this one can lead up to another one, which is most memorable. Okay,
good, man. I like it.
So we had a bunch of complaints on a number of houses. Back then there was a number of dope houses. So we had some complaints. This happened to be in the northeast side. So again, it's like a cold call. You don't know who's on the other side of the door, so I just knock on the door. Yeah. And this guy looks at me, Italian guy, and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, I was just down at the bar. I named the bar. Down at the bar, they said I could cop some weed here. He looked at me and go, "What the you doing here?" And he said, "I don't sell any weed." So I started walking away, and he goes, "Hey, what's your name?" I said, "Michael." And he said, "Come by tomorrow. I might have something for you." I said, "Okay." So we go back the next day. He said, "Come on in the house." So 3 guys are searching me down. You a cop? And I said, "Look, I'm just here to buy some weed. If you don't want to deal with me, then I said I'll be on my way. So then he said, "I don't have any weed, but I have some Dilaudids and some pills, some diet pills." And I said, "I'm not into that, but my old lady is. I'll take some. Let me try some." Yeah. So I get them. And so then
back then it was a Black Beauties, right? It was Black Beauties or whatever.
Yeah. and so I got them. Of course, we go back to the unit, recover them, test them. Yeah, it's good stuff. So they said, make a couple more buys on them. And then they found out while I'm doing this guy, I won't say his name, but he was a high-profiled enforcer for a doctor who was selling scripts to drug dealers. Yeah. So he was. when you go into this doctor's office, this guy was there with a gun and protecting the doctor and protecting from the from
whatever you want,
whatever, and then give him $100.
Wow.
And so while I was doing that, they found out that intelligence. Meanwhile, there was a undercover from the postal, was it the Postal Service? Let me think of it here in a minute. But he was working an undercover deal on food stamps from the same guy, the same group of people.
Yeah.
They're in all kinds of
And you guys didn't know?
We didn't know. And so now they have a lot of things to protect that.
Yeah.
But so I eventually, after 6 months, filed my case on this guy. So they bring him in, so I have to testify. And, he's just looking at me. Mm-hmm. And is that, the judge said, is that the guy that you bought the drugs from? And, yep, that's him right there, sitting right there. Yeah. And so they had a contract out on my life for $500.
What?
I said, if you're going to put a contract out.
They wanted to pay $500 for somebody
to knock me off.
To knock you off.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing the math. again.
Man,
$1.
So
man, that's crazy.
And so what happened was that undercover for the feds who was buying the stamps was Raul Guerrero.
Okay.
And he looked just like me. And so he went in to do the deal for the stamps with this guy.
Yeah.
They had guns to his head. I mean, they were going to, and they threatened him. And he said, he said, my name isn't Michael Santana. My name isn't Vincent Ortega. Because they knew who I was then.
Yeah.
Because we went to court.
Yeah.
And so he pulls out his fake ID.
Yeah.
And so right away, Raul, who used to work for the police department for Kansas City, he calls me, and I hadn't seen him. He goes, hey, Vince. He goes, man, I almost died for you.
Almost died being you.
Yeah. And so we became good friends after that. Yeah. But because of that, now they have what they call, I'm lost for words as far as the technical word, but now when anybody's working any kind of federal cases or state cases or city cases, especially on drug dealing or trafficking, they'll put that information into the computer, and then you can see if somebody else is working the case. So back then,
it was hard to do that, man.
Very little lack of communication.
So you said you only were undercover for 3 years?
Right.
So was that intentional? You were like, I'm done. I can't do this?
After that?
Yeah, after that. So the first 6 months was scary. Then about, because you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Then about a year and a half, I was just having fun.
Yeah.
And we went to so many bars, strip bars, where I just couldn't. It was just like to the point where, I don't want to drink another beer. I don't want to go on one of these. Because all these people.
That goes with that type of lifestyle. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There, man. I mean, they're out there doing all that.
All that stuff, and then what really, and then at that point, then at 3 years, also. We had my wife and I had our first son.
Oh, okay.
So my son was born, and when I went into the hospital, had long hair, scraggly, looked like a scumbag. That's what we call it. Looked like a scumbag. And the nurses and doctors said, "Who's this guy?" She goes, my wife said, "That's my husband." And then
he smells like a strip club.
Yes.
Got glitter on him. Man.
Yeah, got glitter. So she said. After she found out, then I told her, because I never told her anything. I told her I had this contract, this friend of mine. We had to drive his car.
Told your wife?
Yeah, I finally told my wife, towards the end, she said, you got to get out of there. I said,
we got a baby boy now.
We got a baby boy now. And I said, I totally understand.
Yeah.
But
were they pretty easy about you doing that back then?
Oh, yeah. In fact, that's where I had one of my mentors in there. He eventually became the chief of police of Kansas City, Steve Bishop. Mm-hmm. I was a detective undercover. He was a captain over special operations. So kind of all the undercovers worked in a undisclosed location. Yeah. And I can tell you now, back then we worked in the, because it's not there anymore. Right. We worked in the down by Kemp Arena in the farmyard or stockyard building. Yeah, in the stockyard building.
Oh yeah.
So back then too, just a side story is every Thursday we had cattle, and you had the. They were selling cattle back there, and so these cowboys were coming through.
Like black market?
No.
Oh, just
legit, yeah.
Legit, just like I know Dallas still does that legit. You know, there's a lot of places that.
I was just down, not to sidetrack your story, but I was just down there this weekend at the Parade of Hearts, and I was telling my youngest son, like, man, I remember growing up, because my family's right there from the west side, Fairmount Street, and we used to walk into the American Royal, and it'd be the wooden fence stockyard.
Oh, right.
Oh, man, it's crazy. But anyway.
But yeah, when you walk into a stockyard, you could smell.
Oh, yeah. That's all you smell.
Yeah,
man.
so on Thursdays, I mean, we were walking through, the buildings all full of, horse poop.
Yeah, man. I like to see, man. I know you got a picture of yourself in all that outfit, or you're in. I like to see some of that too, man.
What was after the
working undercover?
Undercover, yeah.
Yeah, so there was that Steve Bishop. He was a captain in that special operation. So he came to me and he said, "Hey, look, Vince, you had your fun. You're better than this. You got potential to move up the ranks." And he said, "I'm going to be going to internal affairs.
Yeah.
And I want you to go through the process, and I'd like to have you in there." So I took the process, and I worked internal affairs for about 3 years.
What is that, internal affairs?
So basically, you're policing your own officer. Yeah.
You're the police of the police.
Police of the police. So we weren't very well looked at. So because we'd get a case file.
Yeah.
And we bring in the witnesses, bring in the officers, and they record.
Could be anything from like police harassment or police abuse and instability, or just breaking their own crimes or committing crimes.
Committing crimes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And unfortunately, we'd have to fire 1 or 2 a year for doing something,
So you went from being really, really liked and appreciated to nobody started liking you.
Like nobody wanted to.
Did anybody ever come up to you and say, "Hey, are you Vince Ortega?" And you're like, "No, I'm Michael Santana." Wrong guy.
Yeah. No.
So I mean, I was just wondering, like, so you were internal affairs, and you've got to have like a crazy story you can share with internal affairs, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to give no names.
I won't give no names, but there was this one sergeant who said something, I'll say disrespectful to one of the clerks. And when I looked at the complaint, because I knew the sergeant because I worked for him.
Oh, okay.
And he did that.
I said, "That's him. He did that."
Yeah.
So he came in and he do you remember there was Ortega products, Ortega tacos, Ortega? Yeah. Well, one was called Snappy Tom. So his nickname for me was Snappy. Oh. And so I called him in. He came in. He goes, "Snap." I said it. I said it. I said, "Hey, you made my day easier."
Yeah.
So
suspension. Get out
so
of
that's what happened. They gave him like 3-day suspension or 5-day suspension without pay.
Did he change any bit after that?
He just didn't say it loud enough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Back then, that was before social media and recording iPhones and everything.
Yeah.
Nobody can catch them doing it.
Well, and even like back then, like it had to be something like really bad because now.
Yeah, the sensitivity around things.
If you look at somebody wrong, man, they mad at you or whatever, But yeah, man, that's wrong.
I tell you what, it would be tough being a police officer now.
Yeah.
Real tough.
Yeah.
I have a next door neighbor, man. That is one, and I talk to him every time I see him. He gets out there and he does it, and we talk a bit, whenever I see him, man. He's a good guy, man.
So Vince, you worked your way up to deputy police chief?
Yes.
Is that right? Now, where does that fall in terms of hierarchy for the Kansas City Police Department?
So it's just right under the chief.
Right under the chief.
Yeah. So so I went from a patrol officer to detective working investigations. Because you can work in investigations, you could be a homicide detective, a robbery detective, assault, sex crimes, though. And then when I went to internal affairs, that was investigative, another shield, if you will.
And how long was that?
And I was there for 3 years.
3 years. And
then during that time, I got promoted to sergeant.
Okay.
And from there, you again, as a brand new sergeant, you go back out to the field in patrol.
Mm-hmm.
And I
oversee the patrolmen and all that.
Right. So as a sergeant, you usually have a staff of 8 that work for you.
Right.
And so there's shifts. So there's probably the easiest way to describe it. So let's say Central Patrol or East Patrol Division. Are you familiar with? With the divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's 3 watches. So again, 24/7. There's 3 watches.
Right.
So there's a major over that entire division, and then there's captains that are over the watches, and then there's probably 5 or 6 sergeants underneath that captain, and then they're over, like I said, a group of 8 police officers who patrol different sectors, certain parts of that division.
Right.
So in order to get to deputy chief, did you have to go from sergeant to captain
to major, then deputy chief?
Lieutenant, or was that anything on there?
No, they didn't. They had lieutenant at one time.
Yeah.
But no. So yeah, it was.
You had to hold each one of those titles.
Right.
Wow.
And then besides that, to be a captain, you had to at least have To be a sergeant, you at least have to have an associate's degree.
Oh, okay.
To be a captain, you had to have a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And a major, they didn't really require you have a master's.
Right.
But at the time, I was on the job and still paying for 3 years of Rockhurst College.
Yeah.
Right.
So now the department, their incentive was, we want some educated officers on here. So they were actually paying for your college.
Wow.
So I went to Park College to finish up my bachelor's, and then I went to Park University to get my master's degree.
Okay.
So my bachelor's degree was in criminal justice, and my master's degree was in public administration, public affairs.
Wow.
So I wanted a broader view. I didn't want to just be pigeonholed.
We all know this time of age now, man. Police, man, they get a bad rap, man. Was it anything like that back then? Like how it is? I'm sure you lived through a lot of stuff, or you worked through a lot of stuff back then, man.
Right.
But I think for the past, 5 years, it's always been.
I think it seems like the police departments nationally are struggling to recruit people to come be cops.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, back then, if you can believe this, there was I'll say crooks. The crooks respected the cops if the cop was a good guy, and vice versa. I mean, they did their thing, but if we confronted them, sometimes they'd have a bag of marijuana, and we say, "Hey, look, give me some information."
Yeah.
And we can make it.
We've seen it in the movies all the time. There's that type of respect per se, right?
Right.
Or at least some type of they get along with each other for the most part, back then. I mean, it's in movies, so, I mean, there has to be some truth to that.
No, there was, because, we knew some of them that
like
no matter
Hodges, man. Remember Hodges? Hodges, man.
Yeah.
We got him in the dead right, and gonna arrest him, and he just looked at me and goes, "Ortega, there's going to be a fight." I said, "Let's get it on," and then we'd fight. There would be no complaints internally. I mean, that's how it was. Yeah. Or if they saw, we'd be involved in a chase, and if it wasn't, we didn't brutalize them.
If I catch you, what's going to happen.
Hey, you made me run 3 blocks for this.
Exactly. But there was. I'm telling you, there was that type of respect. But that's not even seen anymore.
Unfortunately, man.
Yeah.
Well, you had a brilliant career. Sounds like 30 years in KC Police Department, right?
I really enjoyed it. Really.
And did I read this right, Vince? Like after 30 years, do they make you retire, or is it like a forced retirement at 30 years, or what did that look like?
Yeah. So back then, so this is so I get on in 1976 and retired in 06, and yes, it was mandatory. 30 years mandatory.
Wow.
And part of it was, it's a young person's job to begin with. And then they started extending it in 2008 because of the depression we had back there. Yeah. And they went, because our pension, so we contributed to pension because the pension started going down.
Right.
They said, if let's don't force these guys to leave at 30 years. Let's do an experiment and keep them to 30 years, 32 years. And when that worked out, they said, okay, we'll extend it to 35 years, but they'll stop contributing. I think it's at 32 or 33 years. Yeah. So it all worked out. And for me though, it was the best thing that happened because I didn't want to leave. I was kind of like, what am I going to do now? I worked so hard to be here, enjoyed it. That was the best thing that happened to me because I'm here now in combat. We're here in the courthouse and totally something different, but still involved in law enforcement a little bit. I'm with them,
Before we get on to that, the combat piece, Vince, one of the things I read was that you and an individual by the name of Pascual Marquez started or helped start Latino Peace Officers of Greater KC.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yes, that sounds right.
Okay. What is that organization? And talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So as we were saying, there was a lack of representation on the department regarding Latinos. And so it was, I remember this, I'm internal affairs, and I'm trying to get promoted, and I'm doing everything possible. And and you see these other individuals having mentors, people helping them study, how do I get in that group? I'm not, and so I started, picking up phones, talking to human resources, and it just happened to be this guy, Louis Quijas. He was a sergeant and in human resources, and he calls me up kind of like, hey, what are you doing, man? And I said, I'm just trying to figure this out.
Right.
I said, I'm not, I'm doing everything I can to be promoted. And I can see people getting past, I'm getting passed over. I'm got my college degree. I'm working, and I'm getting passed.
At some excellent schools, mind you.
Yeah. And so then he says, well, let's get together and talk. So like even him, he didn't want to talk. So there was Bella Gary, Louis Quijas, Dan Hernandez, who lived over at Sacred Heart area, big family, and I think it was Mike. Let me think of his last name. But the five of us, they said, well, we're going to meet. And I'm the youngest one. And I said, we can meet at my house. They go, okay. And it was like, like if you have, 5 Latinos together, this is a conspiracy. And so everybody,
or a pandusa stand, one of the two. Never know, man.
And so, Louis Quijas was the only sergeant at the time. And, he said he got some help, but he said, but I'm stuck here. I can't go to the next step. So we got a hold of Pascual Marquez. He worked for the United States Department of Justice, and I said, here, we all went to him and said, hey, here's what's going on. And so he said, well, let's set up a meeting with the Board of Police Commissioners, with the chief, and see what they have to say. And so they wouldn't even do that initially because they didn't recognize the union. They didn't recognize the FOP. So now
they're just old school minded.
Old school minded. And we said, well, they have the Black Officers Association. This is just us now. And so they said, well, you're not part of the association. So that's where Pascual Marquez said, ding.
Oh, okay.
He says, in California, they have the Latino Peace Officers Association. In fact, they're having their national association
like a
convention in a couple months. And so he said, I'll get with the Department of Justice and we'll go down there and bring a chapter back here.
Nice.
So that's what we went down there, talked to the president. And at that time, there had only been maybe one chapter outside of California, maybe in Las Vegas and just around that area,
Southwest area.
Southwest area, So here we were in mid United States, and we went down there talking to these guys, and they said there's Mexicans in Missouri.
What farm are you guys from?
Yeah. So so we long story short, we brought a chapter back, and Then we went up to the commissioners and chief and said, we have an association.
Yeah, we got it now.
And we got it now.
Now you got to listen to us.
Now you got to listen to us. And it was just that, they didn't even pay attention to us. It was either, you had nepotism, or you had, where blacks were recognized, right. and the black community was putting pressure on them. So we said, we got to do the same thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we got a hold of the Hispanic Chamber, and at that time it was just starting up, and I said, we need some help. We need the community to back us. Mm-hmm. And so Manny Lopez.
Yeah, Manny.
Manny was I think he was a president at the time, so he was the one that we talked to first. Yeah. And talk about, now Manny was my personal mentor, because he knew the business side. And he said, you need to structure your association and be business-like, so that when you go into the community, you're not seen as just cops. Yeah. You're seen as business people. You're seen as professionals. Mm. And so he kind of set the tone of how and so because of that, we had fundraisers, and then we eventually got the Kansas side involved. Okay. And they eventually got big enough where they split off and still have their own association, but. Yeah, it was really just to be recognized. And
do you know how big that is now?
The one in Kansas?
I mean, all in all.
No, I don't. I know they still have the national conventions. Yeah.
Sounds like to me though, man, like just the way we've learned with David Lopez, Manny's son, how Manny was really one of those pioneers with the other members of the KC Hispanic Chamber back then. You guys were your own pioneers for the KCMO Police Department, the Latinos in the department. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a salute.
That's a salute, man.
That's a salute, man. That's a salute, man. Salute to Vince, man. Seriously, man. Seriously.
Yeah, when you say it that way, I guess we were. We really were.
For sure. 100%.
Absolutely, 100%, man. I mean, it's like some of the other folks we've talked to, Vince. I mean. Nobody was doing this for them. Mm-hmm. They had to do it on their own. Right.
And it was obstacles for them.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. And it was obstacles and people, with, let's face it, prejudice and a lot of things else going on,
Oh, yeah.
And that's even today present.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I couldn't imagine in the 70s and 80s when you guys were really coming up, I mean, that's a challenge, man. You guys deserve a lot of honor and credit for that.
Yeah, I appreciate 100%.
That. You know what I did, I was trying to find some stuff on you, man. And I told JL, I was like, man, I can't find shit on Vince, man. I can't find nothing, man. And rightfully so, man. I mean, your title you held and everything you got, but I did find a couple things that I wanted to recognize you with and applaud you with, man. A couple things that I found that you did, that you helped build the Department of Homeland Security within the program, within the force or something like that.
Yeah. Right? So when I was a deputy chief, they flew us down. Me and a major, they flew us down to. It was California where they had a Homeland Security system, and they wanted us to go look at it, spend some time, see how we can bring it back incorporated here. Right. And so so we did that.
And then another thing, you supervised the media relations. Was that within the force? Is that right or no?
No, not in.
Okay. All right. Well, then, police intelligence division.
Yeah, I worked in. Yeah.
And that's what you're saying, the internal affairs.
Internal affairs.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then there was something else that, I mean, it seems kind of like I don't know, it said that you introduced the tasers, or you came and brought them to everybody when they started making tasers, start shooting people.
You say, let's see if this works.
Yeah. What was that like?
Oh, my God. I mean, talk about controversial.
Because back then, right, when the tasers got, brought to life and everybody started using them, I mean, there was obviously something new.
Oh, yeah.
And then everybody's like, what the hell is this, How was that, man? What was that like?
Well, I was the captain over the patrol, I was the deputy chief over the patrol bureau. So I had all the patrol bureaus under me, including special operations, like you would now call SWAT teams and the helicopter units. Yeah. So they had all the special weapons. And so how it came about is that there was a call to a parents actually called because their son of 21, 22 years old had mental health issues, and he was threatening to kill him with a butcher knife.
Oh, wow.
So the officers went in there, and all they had was either a baton or their gun. Yeah. And the guy turned and went right after the officers, and they shot and killed him right in front of the mom and dad. Yeah. So the mom and dad, they sued the police department, but they sued the police department for us to invest in other weapons that were non-lethal. Yeah. And so that was one of, so we communicated, because they understood. They didn't want their son killed, obviously, but they understood that
they needed to have him somehow.
Yeah, another tool for the tool bag.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that they could lessen the harm done. And so the tasers, we looked at other police departments that had the tasers, looked at their policies and procedures, kind of adjusted those policies and procedures, and we put them kind of in a continuum of use. So basically, a continuum of use of force. Yeah. So it's basically if a knife on a knife, you have this weapon, or you have a pepper spray, or you have some other things.
So did you get tased?
No, but I don't know if they still do.
They do.
I think they do.
Now you see, there's a movie out that has a pretty famous scene with being tased, and it's the guys who go to Vegas and
Hangover. What is it?
Hangover.
Have you seen the scene?
Yes.
Where he gives the kid a gun, and he's like, "Who wants to see how this works?" And the guy, I forget his name. The guy who carries the baby Carlos everywhere. Yeah. He comes up to the front of the classroom. The kid's just mugging him, and he just zaps him right in the freaking forehead.
Right.
Oh, it's hilarious. Anyway.
Wow.
But yeah. No, I didn't get tased, but yeah, I think you still have to get tased. And I remember one of the police commissioners. I won't go there that much, but a lot of the officers didn't care for.
Yeah.
That she got tased at the academy and let it out F-bomb, and it was, and that if it was on if it was now or social media, it'd be going viral.
Oh man, I bet. So we are here at Jackson County building, sitting with you, Vince, because, and the reason why we're here is because you are the director of Community Based Antidrug Tax, also known as Combat.
Right.
Right? What year did you officially take that role for director?
So I came here in 2009 as the deputy director.
Okay.
And in 2018, I became the executive director.
Okay.
The director.
So you weren't retired that long.
No.
You were like, I gotta go back to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How was that getting in here? I mean, I'm pretty simple. Obviously, because your credentials and that you've had, was it pretty like promised or something?
No, not really, because there was several people that had put in for the position,
okay.
And so we went through. If I recall, it was 4 interviews.
Wow.
There was a group of community. I would say community ad hoc group. Part of them were in prevention or treatment programs. Mm-hmm. Part of them were from the police department, because combat funds law enforcement and treatment and prevention agencies.
Right.
And so I remember going through 2 interviews with that group, and then my final interview was with the at that time the county executive, Mike Sanders. Mm-hmm. And so it was quite a process, and they were the reason they were kind of revamping Combat. Combat was under the prosecutor's office, then he wanted back under the executive office, and then it went back. Eventually, when I took over, it went back to under the prosecutor's office. Yeah. But it was messy details going through all that,
going back and forth,
going back and forth, and then there was the administration was. There was 21 people in there, or 25 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And so now, before I took it over, we had Missouri state auditors come in, look at all the books. We had a private, and if I'm going to take over, I want to make sure the books are clean, clean slate, and so it was. And so now there's only 7 of us.
So there's only 7 of you total in combat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For those that have never heard of combat, I'm sure a lot of people have, though. One of the things I read about the community-backed anti-drug tax, is that actually Jackson County was one of the first, or maybe even the first, in terms of county nationwide, to do this tax.
That's correct.
To approach it as a county-wide initiative, which I thought was pretty amazing on the county's part to do something like that.
Yeah, it was. In fact, it's still the only one that we know of that's a county-based tax for public safety.
Wow.
And it started in 1989. Back then, and I was on the police department at the time. Back then, we had actual gang members from Jamaica coming here and selling crack cocaine. They were setting up crack cocaine houses, dope houses everywhere. And so when I first got out of undercover, I bought my first crack cocaine, and we thought, what is that? We never seen it before. And then it became between that and then the meth that came out of, if you recall, Independence used to be the meth capital.
Man.
So they had
for a while.
the title for a while. So that's why they initially called it, because we were overwhelmed. We didn't have the funding, didn't have the weapon, just didn't have the tools.
Manpower.
Yeah, to go in there and
control it, man.
Yeah, and so that's why the tax was initially came about. But then when the violence component started coming in, they said, how can we use some of this money to because now the violence is out. We got rid of the meth. I mean, the meth houses.
Right.
The meth is still here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's coming in through the cartels. The cartel right now, they have a monopoly on all the drugs. Although fentanyl's coming in through China, it's coming out from the cartels into the States. But so the tax comes up for a vote every 7 years.
Oh, okay.
So in 2009, just when I came in, they said, hey, let's put the violent component on it. So now we can fund for violence enforcement, violence treatment, and that meant trauma, people suffering from trauma,
right,
whose loved ones were shot by guns, and then also for prevention, violence prevention. And so that's how that came about. And
how much money, Vince, does this? It's a sales tax.
It's a quarter-cent sales tax.
Quarter-cent sales tax. How much money does it generate?
Yeah, it generates probably anywhere from 32 an average. I would say an average of $32 million a year.
Okay. And those programs, are there some programs you can mention that maybe the community would know? Like, oh yeah, I know what that programs are. I heard about that program.
Oh yeah. Two of the programs they would know is we fund Mattie Rhodes and Guadalupe Center.
Okay.
We fund them both for their prevention and treatment programs.
Okay.
And we fund the Mattie Rhodes is now one of our striving hubs, and I can go to striving hub what that is. And so striving is really an acronym for striving together to reduce violence in neighborhoods.
Okay.
So we look at when I took over, I started looking at we fund over 100 different agencies, treatment and prevention.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even counting our prosecutors, our law enforcement, our corrections, our family courts. Yeah. That's just the programs that are out there.
Wow.
So when we were looking for violent crime hotspots, and we wanted to make sure that our funding and our programs were in those areas. And when we used that data to map it over the violent crime hotspots, we saw some areas there was none of our programs in there. So we said, in order for us to ensure that this community is getting representative and has the resources, that we need a brick and mortar hub.
Yeah.
And so Mattie Rhodes was one of those areas that we fund them to basically coordinate the resources, work with the people, kind of like a warm hand.
Yeah. What do you feel, in your opinion, man, is the main cause of crime?
Trauma. So it's people that have it's generational trauma where violence was constant.
Yeah.
Their parents, domestic
Something that they
violence,
grew up
child
with seeing
abuse.
all the time, and it just repeats.
It just repeats itself.
Could even be like the neighborhood.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
neighborhood they
Despairing,
grew
man,
up in.
despairing communities, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unfortunately that's a that's a real thing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, them despairing communities, man, that they got no hope somewhere,
Right.
Whether it's be education, finances, the way they live, housing,
Yep.
Exactly.
I just think about how I grew up. I grew up in KCK side, in Wyandotte County.
Yeah.
That's where I spent most of my childhood growing up for schools. And before I graduated, I had 2 friends get killed due to drugs.
Yeah.
I tell people stories sometimes, and it's like I'm from a different world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I kind of am from a different world, than the one that you probably grew up in. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's tough. It's tough, but that's a good point, Vince.
One thing I've seen too, man, and I'm sure you know about this. A couple months ago, Louisiana, right? Like they passed the law there for 18-year-olds to purchase weapons, to purchase guns.
Yeah.
Louisiana. I mean, they're known for.
Yeah.
I love Louisiana. I've been down there. I mean, it's a great city, but it's also a crime-ridden city, man.
Yeah.
And for them to pass that type of law, I think that was just early this year. It's a crime city, man. How are they going to do that? I mean, it's just to me, right? My opinion is sometimes if you allow that, that's what you're going to get out of it as well.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the same with Missouri. I mean, it used to be you had to be 23 years old. They did a background check, fingerprinted you. Once if you passed that, then you could purchase a gun. Then after you purchased it, you had to register it with the county, with the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Now they reduced it to 19.
Wow.
And I think it's 18 or 19.
It's 18, yeah.
And
You can't.
no background check.
You can't. I mean, you can't go buy liquor until you're 21. I mean, what's the deal with that? I mean, you can go to the service, you
Right.
can go to serve in the military and all that, but like everybody knows, even at 18, it takes for young adults, man. Their frontal lobe isn't completely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they still got some time to grow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there a policy that you really kind of help lead the charge on, in terms for the county or even the city, when it comes around, drugs and drug usage, anything like that you can talk about, any sort of policy initiatives that you were hands-on involved in?
Not so much policy, but maybe practice.
Yeah.
So essentially, the Strive-In program was initiated so that all these agencies that we fund weren't working in silos anymore. That we're working together. That some programs had some niche areas. Some were just outlets for the kids after school, in school.
Right.
But then and that's what Strive-In is. It's if you're referred to like a Matty Rhodes, they will do, and you're referred there by, say, the police go to a domestic violence call. The perpetrator's gone, and you have the mom, and the officer sees that there's electricity's off, not enough diapers or food in there.
Right.
They can. One of the initiatives that I started was it was originally manually you had to pick up a phone. Now we have an app, a link that the officer can just pull on his phone, get the information from the client, and just simply we want to make sure we have a good name, contact number. And then on the second page, just what the needs are, rental assistance needs, and then submit it, and it'll go to Matty Rhodes. It's not an emergency system, but next day they'll pick up, follow up. We provide them with funding for social service workers to do outreach. If they can't get them by phone, they'll go to the house, do
Some type of wellness check.
wellness check, and so that's one of the things that. The practice is that now on our contracts, if you're getting funded by Combat, you have to participate in a Striving Hub meeting monthly, and so we have them by Zoom. So anybody that we fund, we just let them know that here's where we're working, here's the areas of concern. Do you have resources for them? And most of the time, it's unbelievable. Every month we meet, we get new agencies on and they'll talk about the problems, and they said, well, I didn't know you dealt with 14-year-olds. I didn't know you had resources for that. I'll give you a call after this. So it's just bringing all of and then besides those, we have outside resources that Combat necessarily doesn't fund, but for rental assistance. We go to the organizations that have ERAC money.
Right.
Or, other assistance. Housing's huge.
Yeah. So with that, you mind sharing for our people that are listening, or the website for that, in case they got interested in looking that up? What's that website?
Yeah, it's JacksonCountyCombat.org.
Okay. And if they need any type of, you said, assistance for, housing or whatever else, or the youth, right?
You're right. Yeah,
man.
That's excellent, man. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we try to capture, Vince, is people out here just doing such amazing work in the community, and people don't know, they just see it, or maybe they see a relative struggling, with their own addiction, their own drug use, or what have you, and they don't know, what resources are out here for people,
exactly.
And so I think that's excellent. To that end, Vince, in Kansas City specifically, being that you come up in criminal justice, law enforcement, on the city side, now on the county side, are there some, you would say, man, Kansas City, we really need help with this issue in Kansas City when it comes to, criminal justice or law issues? Are there some things you can talk about? Yeah,
and it was kind of a question you posed, Daniel, about what drives crime. And it's that trauma, that mental health piece.
Yeah.
And so that was enlightening to me, because when I first came to Combat, we had funded, and we averagely fund anywhere from 20 to 27 different treatment agencies. And it could be drug treatment, and it could be trauma treatment regarding. And I just went and interviewed them. And, what are you looking for in an individual? What, where are the majority of your clients coming from? And what was staggering was 90% of them were coming from probation and parole.
Oh, yeah.
So that told me right away that, and it made sense, because as a police officer making an arrest, you wonder why some of these people make irrational decisions. They're high on drugs, mental health issues, or a combination of both.
Right.
And really what I learned back then, what I know now for sure, is they just started looking at, they called it dual diagnose. So this individual has a mental health problem, so he's self-medicating. It might start out with alcohol, then it goes on to the harder drugs.
Wow.
And so talking to our corrections department over here, depending on who you ask, how many of those individuals that are incarcerated are suffering from mental health issues?
I'm sure
they'll say 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
So and we don't, and the thing is now, since the pandemic, the stigma of that is kind of fallen a little. It's still, people are still hesitant to go, but now that they're going, even if it's telehealth, they're still on the list. It could be months before they get that, and if they're in crisis, they need it now.
Yeah,
right.
They need it now.
So, and unfortunately, there's a lot of burnout with those social service workers.
Oh, man.
Because they get what they call secondary trauma. They hear from their clients the things that are going on, and I can get that. In fact, the job, the police department, after 8 months on the job, I saw so much violence and death, human bodies mangled in a car accident, and it just, and then mental health, and it just was overwhelming. And I just came home one day and I said, did I pick the right job? You know? But back then it was, there was no, they didn't call it secondary trauma. There was no, we had a psychiatrist, but that was only, if you were involved in a shooting or to start up, then, then they would make you go. But on this, I mean, it was just suck it up.
Yeah. That's that old school mentality.
That's old school mentality. But yeah. So I think to your question, a long way about it. Yeah, we need more people involved with mental health services.
With mental health, I mean that goes a long way, man. Even with our homeless population has skyrocketed, man, as well in the nation, right? I mean,
right.
You see everything going on in West Coast. I mean, just everything. Right? So that mental health, a lot in that homelessness people, and I'm sure that that crime is right there along with it too.
Oh yeah.
You know that's hard to probably try and even get them help, or I imagine it would be.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You have to want to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only way that some of the judges are getting them help is that's part of their process of going to court. This is part of your what's the word I want to use?
Like when they get a
probation or something.
Yeah. This is part of their mandated court procedures that they have to. So part of that processing is you have to go to
court-appointed classes or whatever
right.
it may be.
Yeah.
Right?
But I will say this. I mean, you're talking about a subject with mental health, Vince, that we've talked about on a handful of our episodes already. I mean, even one of the most recent ones with Damien and Luke Reyes. Rest in peace, Andrew Reyes. Their brother suffered with, alcohol addiction and his own mental health.
Right.
And that's really what the Andrew Reyes Memorial Fund is really all about. And that's what they started. Right. It's a sad story, but I think the beauty of it is, kind of to your point, more people kind of educating themselves, including us, on mental health.
Right.
And, what can we do to help? What can we do to help people who are really struggling with this issue? Because, man, it just seems to be not going away, increasing, and I think a part of it is just the fact that we're saying the words mental health.
Right.
That was a word. Those were two words that I never heard in a sentence growing up.
Right. Yeah, me either. All right. Yeah.
And everybody has one way or another had to deal with that. There's a lot of people. I mean, even myself included, with family members.
Mm-hmm.
There might be, and I'm sure in our audience as well.
Absolutely. One of the things that I gotta ask you about, that when I knew we were meeting with you, Vince, I kind of wrote this down and circled it on my little notepad. And I heard the Mayor Quentin Lucas speak on this actually last week at something I was at, the fentanyl problem in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And, one of the points that he made, and I would like for you to talk about it from your experience, that I think some people don't talk about or think about is that, fentanyl is not crack. The crack, if you want to use the word epidemic or whatever you want to call it, problem was like an urban core problem. Mm-hmm. It happened in the urban part of cities, right? Yeah. Fentanyl is happening everywhere. Urban, suburban, rural. It's in middle schools, high schools. It's everywhere. Yeah. Can you talk about what you guys are seeing, from your side of the table?
Yeah. So one of the agencies we fund is the Eastern Jackson County Drug Task Force. Mm-hmm. So they all their cases, I would say the last 7 years, are all federal cases. Wow. Just because they all lead back across state and down into Mexico to the cartel. Mm-hmm. And so what they're seeing is these pills that they're manufacturing with fentanyl instead of it's supposed to be opiates or whatever. Yeah. They're even putting it in weed and marijuana. Right. I heard and that. So obviously they're not scientists, but just one of the doctors that was on our combat commission board, he said if you can see it, then it'll kill you. Yeah. Mm. So yeah.
Unfortunately, man, I mean, we all, as well, on that same token, man, we all know somebody, mm-hmm. Or, family members or friends, man, that have passed by that going on here, man,
Well, I think some people don't even know, like, what is fentanyl? Like, what, fentanyl is a downer, isn't it? It's more like it's like a relaxer almost, right?
A depressant, yeah.
Yeah, it's a depressant. It's not an upper. It's not like cocaine, or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure the technical part of it. Yeah. But to your original point, why why fentanyl is everywhere is because kids who were experimenting, kids are going to experiment no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But they were experimenting on something that was probably real, I mean, in the form of a pill. But now with all these drugs having some fentanyl in it, it's fatal.
And it's highly addictive, too.
It's highly addictive.
Yeah. That's really sad. And, are you guys working regionally, or have you guys, the work with Combat, is there some programs that are more regional in the sense, not just so county focused, to help kind of combat the drug issues that we're seeing here in Kansas City?
Well, we've been working with the Missouri Department of Mental Health. We've been working with all our funded agencies like Rediscover, Swope Parkway, Comprehensive Mental Health, Truman Medical Center, University of Health now.
Yeah.
And working with the DEA to see what's going on around the country. If there's any, really what it came down, because we sit on Comprehensive Mental Health started a task force. So we have a lot of providers and actually mothers and fathers that lost their sons to fentanyl.
Yeah.
And how do we? I think the big thing is awareness. Yeah. And for awareness, there has to be awareness to the parents, and then awareness to the youth, because they're not going to listen. It has and
how do you get that out, man?
Social media with the kids. Yeah. Somehow it has to
be out there, man.
It has to be, a quick 30-second, something buzzing in their ear.
It's just crazy about how much that's disguised in everything.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, same as like candy, right? I mean, like you put shit, man.
Oh yeah.
Put it on everything.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just scary, man. It's a scary time, man, for the youth. It's a scary time for everybody, man.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think the thing that can sometimes put just even that much, more
specs of it.
Yeah, I mean, you see it, you hear about it in music, and then I listen to hip hop music. I listen to all kinds of music, and one of the things I often kind of tease my kids about is that some of their favorite musicians or artists in the kind of hip hop world, they've died from popping pills and drug use. You know, my two favorite rappers got killed by guns. It's different generations. It's sad and unfortunate, but I think kids, they see this, right, and they hear in the music these artists talking about how awesome it is, and things like that. So I just think it's something that, as a community, we got to, educate ourselves on and focus in on trying to protect the youth, especially.
Yeah, we got to address it and got to let them, like I said, educate them on it, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think this podcast is obviously going to be part of that.
Absolutely.
In doing that. So, we appreciate that. But again, it's just, right now it's just awareness of how fatal it can be with just with one speck of it.
Yeah. Well, that's good, Vince, man. Keep up the good work on that. I know you're about done here in your career. You're like, man, I'm going to go retire, but I think the work that Combat is doing, and the county's doing with that program is excellent, man. So I really appreciate everything you've been doing.
Absolutely.
One of the questions I was going to ask you, so you talked earlier about mentors, and you actually gave a shout out to one of your mentors who was actually a police chief at one point.
Right.
But my guess is that you probably had some other mentors. Who were some of those early mentors for you that really helped guide you? I mean, maybe in your career or just in life.
Yeah, I'd have to say both my mom and dad. I mean, I was really fortunate to have both of them there.
Yeah.
So instead of telling us what to do, they both did it. College education is the next thing. So again, my mom, she got her nursing degree. My dad went to Penn Valley, got his associate's degree in firefighting. Yeah. And so, college was the way. Yeah. And so just the way they led their lives, by example. So they expected high expectations of us. So they didn't just tell us, they did it.
Yeah.
And so big shout out to my parents. Both are passed. My mom passed about 5 years ago. My dad about 7 years ago.
What was their names?
John and Anita Ortega.
John and Anita. Shout out, man.
Yeah.
You produced a great one. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying the other ones aren't, but firefighters. I mean, man, they had some great kids.
Yeah,
they're looking down proud, man. You mentioned earlier about DJing. So I wrote it down when you said it. I was like, I'm gonna bring that back up at some
point.
What's
that DJ name?
Man, what was the
name?
Michael Santana?
No, I just went by Vince Ortega. But it was how I started was this is kind of crazy. So I was in a band. I knew about microphones and that kind of stuff. So my wife started in Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so she actually had a great career, 30-year career.
I was going to say, I heard she drives a pink
Escalade.
Oh,
really?
I mean, when you see one of them rolling around, they did well for Mary Kay.
Yeah. She got on in 1988 and retired 30 years later, but her first year and a half, she was meant for this because she's a people person.
Yeah.
And in any business, you have to build relationships.
Right.
And she was great at that.
What's her name again?
Jillian Ortega.
Shout out, Jillian.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Sounds like we might have to
Can we get a ride in the Escalade? Is that cool?
We might have to talk to Jillian.
Yeah. But she has right now she has a, do you remember the XLR? Yeah. It's a Cadillac version. It's built on a Corvette body. Well, she has one of those in our garage. And it's a pink. It was, it's a Mary Kay. It was designed for Mary Kay, this particular pink. But I like the pink because it's a kind of a off-white. I mean, it's
kind of like a pink Nestle Quick milk color. You know what I'm talking about? That powder milk, right?
Yeah. And
light pink.
Yeah, and the girls didn't like that. They said after 2 years, they said, we want to go back to the pink.
The pink.
The hot pink.
Oh, wow.
But
you drive that car much, Vince?
Huh?
You drive that car much?
When she lets me. Because it's a convertible hardtop. But going back to the DJing, so my wife, after 7 years, after her first 18 months, she always had a pink Cadillac. I mean, that's how good she was in the field. Yeah. Every 2 years, as long as you were producing a certain amount a year, you got a pink Cadillac. They said it wasn't free; you earned it, and it was. I mean, we didn't make payments on it, insurance or otherwise. We just put gas in it, and then we could write that off.
So Mary Kay, anybody want to get in that Mary Kay, get a pink Cadillac?
But so she, in her 7th year, she went down to Dallas, Texas. That's where Mary Kay is based out of.
Okay.
She went down there. Headquarters down there. So she went to an event, and they were doing awards night, and these women were coming up, and they had a DJ just pumping out there. So she came back and said, I want you to set up a DJ, call this guy. This is Mary Kay National's husband, and he does the DJing and
get some equipment.
Get some equipment. And so I said, back then it was really expensive, and that was hauling those big Yamahas, whatever. And so I said, you're looking about $10,000, and then you're going to have to buy me a Ford 150 truck to load it up.
A pink one, mind you.
And she said, I don't care. So, man, I said.
And a trailer, you're going to have to haul them speakers in.
Yeah, so I loaded everything up. I got, and so, I mean, I had everything. I set up the lights and everything.
Wow.
And it did. I mean, most people are emotional when it comes to music.
Yeah.
And so, the thing behind that. So I started DJing for like twice a month, and it was one of those things like for about 8 years.
Really?
And doing it a couple of times, and then I would DJ. Somebody asked me to do something, I'd do that.
Gathering or something. You still got that equipment in the basement, man?
I have some of it still.
Really?
Yeah, I have some.
We're gonna have to break it out, Vince.
I would start out like, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome from Kansas City, Missouri?
Hey, I told you he had a radio voice today. I said this dude got a radio voice. That's what's up. You have kids?
I have one son,
Okay.
Vince Jr.
Vince Jr. Shout out Vince Jr.
Yeah.
Now, is he a cop, fireman, anything?
No, he didn't want anything to do with that. He actually, I was a major in the homicide unit, but actually over the violent crimes division. So we had the homicide unit, robbery, sex crimes, assault squad, and so take your child to work day. So I took him to the office, and I said, they said, hey, we take him to the coroner's office. And he said, yeah, I want to go.
Oh, no,
and
he didn't.
he was, yeah. And I said, they said, but not, we can do it tomorrow. And I said, he's got to go back to school tomorrow. So they just showed him, pictures of a glimpse of some of the stuff. But
it wasn't for him.
He just said, I don't know how you guys do that.
Wow.
And so, no, he's an entrepreneur. He took after my wife. Okay. And so he has, what he does is basically an internet marketer.
Okay.
So if you have a business, I mean, it's set up just like an Amazon. If you're promoting T-shirts or cups or mugs or jeans or whatever you have to sell, he knows the demographics. He'll have the marketing platform and locate. So that's what he's done pretty much most of his life. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so if you were going to recruit some young people to come into the police force, what's your recruitment line? I mean, you walking in like a pimp, drug dealer, you flashing back on him like,
he's
hey,
be
you could look
DJ,
like
man.
you could look like this
DJ,
every
man.
day if you want. What are you doing? What are you telling these young people?
I don't know. That's a good question. And I know you're going to have a guest on here that's currently on the department. Yeah. I think it's better to ask him because, I've been away from the job almost 18 years now. Yeah. And although I meet with him on a weekly basis, unfortunately, we go over what they call shoot review. Every week we go over, just in Kansas City, how many people were shot or killed. During that week. It's horrible.
It's been a lot, man.
Yeah, I mean, they've been averaging 12 to 15 a week, and it's just horrible.
Well, we just heard last week that one officer that got shot, right?
Yeah.
The officer got shot, and then just even the other night, man.
So I mean, it's really because it's a struggle. These officers don't have time they're just hopping from one call to another, and they're not really making relationships in the communities that we had the opportunity to, because we had enough officers to do that. Yeah. And, so I don't know. Yeah. It's,
That's fair. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, right? I don't know. Like, I really struggle with that now, seeing what they're going through. Yeah. I see some of them still enjoying the job, but I was just talking one, he was going to, right at 25 when he could get his pension, he was going to take off, but they gave him incentives. So you stay another couple years, we'll give you this, certain percentage to retire out. So
what I wanted to ask you too, Vince, man, is since you brought up the homicide rate. Yeah. Right. We all know that last year, man, we surpassed what the
previous
rate
year
of it was, which was 182 or something, right? What do you think it will take, man, to lower this homicide rate here in KC, man?
I think it just goes back to if we can work with these, and that's what we're trying to do now. So those individuals that are shot and killed weekly, we're sending them to our Midtown hub, which is the greater Kansas City Metropolitan Church of Christ. And so that's our hub located there at 39th and Prospect. Yeah. So we send them all there to do assessments. And our goal is to, give them what they need now to heal up physically. Yeah. And then the next part is to work with them mentally to make sure that there's no retaliation. There's no trauma. So if we can intervene then at that point and say there's a better way. But again, we can't just give them lip service. I mean, if they're struggling with a job, with mental health.
Finances, everything.
Yeah, so I think we're doing it right now. I mean, we're attempting to do that right now, to work with those that are shot and could be the next suspect, or they could be re-victimized. Right. We're trying to intervene, and we're working. And when I say we, not only combat-funded agencies, but any agency that outside of combat. I mean, we're trying to work with them.
Yeah.
Of course. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's excellent.
You know, what I wanted to ask you also, man, we talked about a lot of stuff, your career, man, your DJing, you know, and if you could go back hands of time, man, and talk to your younger self, you know, what kind of advice would you give your younger self about that, about what your life has been like?
You know, my wife and I talked about that, and I actually would do nothing different. I really, you know, really enjoyed not only, high school. Yeah, I had a blast. I mean, you can ask your sister. We were fortunate in those days. You know, we went to Bishop Lillis High School, 37th and Troost. We had a third black, a third white, a third Latino. We all got along, went to everybody's parties. We didn't see color back then.
Right.
But now, you know, it's like things are changed, and we thought it would get even better. Yeah. But, so no, I wouldn't change anything about how I lived, where I went to school, my career, you know. No, I wouldn't change that. And then I'm, you know, like I said, I was glad I was kind of forced out. You know, as mandatory retirement, because now I'm able to work with what I really found leaving the police department. Of course, I missed a lot of good people there, but what I really enjoyed, what I found out with combat, is getting out and working with the people in the community. Yeah, that's what because I remember that as a cop. I mean, I enjoyed, because we had the time to get out, meet the store owners, meet the neighbors, so they got to know you. But yeah, it's just working with the community, and if we see gaps, if we see if we can get resources. So it was always that kind of I thrived on it. You know?
Nice.
Man, I happen to know a few people that know you very well. And love you a lot, man. And I asked them to give a couple descriptions of you. I said, describe me, Vincent Ortega, in one or two words, man. And this is what they said. All right. Person number one said that you are completely honest. Completely honest. Another person said that you're a great friend, that you're a loving friend. Right? You're generous. You're always giving. I think we'll kind of touch on some of that. What you like to do.
Yeah.
An incredible role model.
Yeah.
Don't make me tear up.
And just a great mentor, man. Just a great mentor.
You won't be the first, man.
Yeah, man. So I think with all your achievements that you did in your career, and being loved by your friends and family for sure, and I know by the community, those are all great words, man, that people described of you.
Great.
And the reason why, we do this is there are so many people that may not know Mr. Vincent Ortega, man. So here we are to put you on this platform, man.
Yes, sir.
Let the city, let the world, obviously the community, to let everybody know that you're still here doing this, man. At least until the end of the year.
Yeah. And I'll still be involved somehow, some way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You'll be a phone call away, I'm sure.
That honeydew list will get too long. You'll be like, you know what? I think I might just call the office, see what's going on.
Come up in that pink Cadillac.
How many years total, Vince? 48?
For
just overall career?
Yeah. 48.
48.
Yeah.
Wow, man. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. One of the questions we ask people, Vince, see if you can vibe with this, okay?
Uh-oh.
Tell us you're from KC without telling us you're from KC. So there's got to be, you've been around Kansas City your whole life. There's got to be something, a business that's not here anymore, a person that people would know of, an experience that Kansas City used to have.
Something that nobody
or only Kansas Citians would know.
Yeah. Well, the first thing, I was first introduced to Bryant's Barbecue when I was a police officer.
Man.
Yeah. But of course, everybody knows Bryant's. But the original Bryant, when he was the owner and the chef back there, it was amazing. So I mean, obviously everybody's
Was
barbecue.
it called just Bryant's back then? Or was it always been Arthur Bryant's?
I think it's always been Arthur Bryant.
Arthur Bryant.
Yeah.
Was it always good?
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, you know, it has
go there.
because it has a unique taste than any other barbecue.
Something about that.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, I go to every barbecue place, and this is no disrespect to any single one of them.
Yeah.
But if you want to get your dollar's worth, go to Arthur Bryant's.
Oh yeah.
They will not disappoint you.
I go there and I'll get the double beef. That's all I get from them.
Man.
I get
And it's like enough for 2 or 3 people.
That dude grabs it. I mean, it ain't no scam on that.
No.
Man. He just grabs it and bam.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I put that whole damn thing sandwich down. Man.
No way.
Oh, man. Arthur Bryant's, man. What other places you like going to?
Yeah.
You know, like you were saying, something that somebody would, you know, Kansas City used to be what I call Cowntown. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of, I'm trying to think of the one that was a cowboy place like at 35th and Main, or was it Broad? No, 35th and Main. I can't think.
Country bar?
A country bar. And we used to have a lot of country bars because back in, I want to say, the late 80s.
Was that over there, like towards where the old Osco used to be on the corner, like over?
Yeah. Yes.
I think I know you're talking. I can't think of that name either, man.
I think of it here, but
what's it called today? Do you know?
I don't think it's even a bar anymore.
Here it is, man. Anybody in our audience that might see this and know it, man, put it in that comments and we'll
tell us in the
know
comments.
Man. Put it in the comments if they remember where that country bar is. On
But back then,
36 of Main.
Yeah. But again, they had. You remember Shepler's?
Yeah.
Shepler's. Yeah. Here's a story. When the Kansas City Kings were here. Yeah. My wife before she had 4 different jobs. She came over here as a nanny, and I met her a week later, and then she worked at one of the police officers had the original. This is one, the original Subway sandwich, because his wife was from New Jersey, so she made the original right down here at 10th and Oak. So my wife would help lunchtime. And serve Subway sandwiches. Wow. And then she, after that, the Kansas City Kings were at Shepler's trying out for the Glitter Girls. And so she said, I think I ought to try out for that. I said, do you know how to dance? And she said, she was in Ireland. She was with the Mumford Singers and Dancers, and they would put on plays like Pippin, West Side Story.
And she was in that.
And she was at that. She said, "Yeah, I can dance."
Yeah.
And I said, "Can you do the splits? Can you do backflips?" She goes, "No, but I could learn." Long story short, she went to Shepler's and auditioned, and she was a glitter girl for 4 years.
Wow!
And so I had 4 tickets free.
Yeah.
And it was every game, some of my friends, okay, who, you going to introduce me to a glitter girl? Can I go to the basketball game with you?
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible, man. I wish, and I tell people this all the time, I wish we never lost the Kings.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, could you imagine the Royals, the Chiefs, the Kings? I mean, the current Sporting KC Monarchs, KC Commons. I mean, man, there's just so many great teams here. I just wish we would have kept the Kings.
But yeah, that was a place. So right out Kipper Arena after the games, they had a lot of food shops around there and bars, and So if you were in Kansas City back in the 80s with the Kings were here, you would know all those places.
Absolutely.
That's great, man. Man, Vince, like I said earlier, man, I've known you for a long time. And you've known me, a lot longer, right? One thing about you, man, is that you've always looked the same. You've always, man, you're a good-looking guy, man. Always seem like you're fit, man. What's your aging secret, man? What do you do, man?
Really, what I do, I swim probably 3 or 4 days a week.
Is that right?
Okay.
That's your active?
Yeah, that's my activity because I used to not run, but get on the treadmill or run, 2-3 miles to keep in shape. But as you get older, it's the knees, the back, and everything else. So, so I started to swim.
Well, you was always active anyway, when you were playing football and everything else.
Right, and then in the police academy, you had to keep up, and because if you could do an obstacle course or run a certain mile in a certain time, they give you what they call E-days, a couple of days each month if you accomplish that goal. That was an incentive to keep it fit. But I just my dad was that way.
Yeah.
It was just kind of all of us just
kind of stayed
active. But when the knees and back started going, my son was playing baseball at Maplewood College, and they wanted him to swim on the off season. So we got that was in 2004. So we got a membership to the YMCA. I live up north in Parkville, and have been swimming ever since.
Wow,
nice.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I
swim like a rock, man. I swim like a rock, man. Let me know, man. Everybody knows. I don't get in that water, man. Yeah.
I used to swim like a fish, but now I swim more like a whale. So, it is what it is. I can swim though.
Right.
Well, listen, Vince, man, it's been such an honor and a privilege for D-Rod and I to sit here with you this evening, man, and just talk about, what you're involved with, the community, your career. Salute to you, man, again, because not many people have the careers that you have had, right? And particularly being a pioneer for us in the community. I mean, we really mean that, right?
Oh, yeah, man.
Like, we really mean that, man, on behalf of Enterrupt KC. I mean, you 5 guys that got together, started kind of forming an association, and, Manny Lopez out there, mentoring you guys and how to structure yourselves. I love hearing that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything you'd like to share with us, man, that we didn't ask you?
No, I think you guys. Yeah, I think you touched it all. Yeah.
One other questions that we also ask people, man. Is our logo here, man. We got Enterrupt KC, right? And it's all about people like yourself doing great things here, man, and in this place, man.
Yes, sir.
I'll give you the option here, man. People, places, and things. We'd like to ask, what person, what place, or what thing, Vincent, do you feel best represents Kansas City?
What best represents Kansas City? Yeah. I think in general, it's the people. Like I said, I'm a community-minded individual. So if you get in the community, you know the people. And there's, really everybody wants to do right. Yeah. They're proud to come from Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people doing right, man.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people doing right. Yourself. Yeah, and so I think really, because fortunately I've had an opportunity to travel with my wife around the globe in different states, and her being from Ireland. She says, it took her a while, but after like 12 years, she said, Kansas City is my home now. We met so many good people here. Yeah. In fact, I was looking at retirement. At one time, we were looking down in Florida. We have a lot of friends down there, and we were looking in California, looking other places. But we said, why would we do that? This is our home. We can go visit.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need another place down there. So
because it snows here and it gets really cold.
Man, there's hurricanes down there in Florida.
I'm just saying.
So I would leave for retirement. I would go down to those places during the winter months and then come back. Yeah, so we're looking at downsizing and buying a home here in Kansas City again. Yeah,
that's excellent, man.
Yeah.
Well, listen. Thank you again, Vince, Mr. Ortega. Really appreciate the time joining us here on Enterrupt KC. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Enterrupt KC, JL.
D-Rod, man. Like, share, comment, subscribe,
yes, sir.
Man.
Peace, everybody.
Thank you.